Welcome back to the Smugglers Den. This is episode 32. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes. As always, I'd like to thank SW Destiny for their hosting of the Smugglers Den and all the awesome stuff they do for the community. And it would be remiss of me not to remind you that coming soon, July 8th and 9th, is X Wars. The Smugglers Den is sponsoring the event. It's going to be amazing. $3,000 is on the line. Go there, go win it, and brag to me about all the money I could have won had I been able to free up my schedule. Oh, it hurts. All right, enough of that. So I'd like to also thank all the people who are helping me out on Patreon, Tiny Grimes. Your generous donations are what keep this going and what keep me going, what allow me to buy packs, to be quite frank. So thank you so much, everyone. $1, $50, whatever you're doing, you're amazing. I love you. And I'd like to bring in my guest this week. We've heard him before, Mike Gem. I think, is this the trifecta for you?
Yeah, this is my third appearance.
Woo! You know what they say, 3 times on the Smuggler's Den, and then you get inexplicably murdered in an alley. So, sorry, man.
Man, I live in an alley, so that's terrible for me.
Oh, no. Wish I hadn't said that.
Worst case scenario.
So how you doing, Mike? How much Destiny you been playing?
I've been playing a ton on TTS, like nonstop, every day,
Nice.
all day, every day.
All day,
I don't think
every day.
I don't think I've played live more than once since I won my store championship 6 weeks ago, but I play a lot on TTS.
Interesting. So do you get the same level of enjoyment playing on TTS as live, or is this just more of a necessity, that's what you got to do, and that's how you're going to play Destiny?
Well, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but I don't really get like an intense sense of enjoyment from playing the game because it's the game. I like enjoy competing, but like when I used to prepare for Magic tournaments, I used to almost exclusively play online and never play other than the events. So I find the online gaming comfortable for me. It's just where I prefer it.
So I know a lot of people when they translate that, if they play mostly online, when they play in person, they feel a little bit clunky with the cards, and you actually have to do things a little bit differently with the mechanics. Do you feel that way at all, or because you're a longtime card player, this is just a seamless transition for you?
Yeah, I think because I've been playing cards for 18 years now, that it does. I don't feel that way, but I do try and, like, when we go to GenCon, I'm going to be getting live games in the days while we're there, or I'll get that testing in. So it's not like I'll go cold turkey into a big tournament like that.
Gotcha.
But in terms of a store championship or something, I'll always try and get a game or two beforehand. But I don't feel that way. But again, that's probably just experience.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. But again, it's the same thing. I've played so much in person that, just playing online is pretty much fine. And I get my once a week game night in, so it's fine. I got a question for you though, Mike. I do the same thing. I go to Store Champs and I play at least one game to kind of wake the brain up and get it flowing. And I actually use the deck I'm going to play that day. That's just how I roll. Do you, or do you use a different deck?
It kind of depends. I mean, I definitely don't have the the exposure you do. I don't think anyone's really paying attention when I play something. But it really depends on like what my opponent's going to play, and if my opponent is someone that I like or think is good.
Yeah.
Like before the store championship I won, there was this guy who's a pretty good player, and he was playing Palpatine, and I was like, well, let me play Pomaz against Palpatine, and he's also the kind of guy, if I'm walking and holding a Han card, he's like, oh my God, you play Han too? So like people think that if you hold a card in a certain way that's the only deck you play. And I'm not used to that with gaming at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do something interesting. I said I usually play the deck I'm going to play, but I also try not to play, like, if there's someone who I know is really good but doesn't have a lot of experience with that deck, I won't do my warm-up game with that person because I don't want to give them that extra leg up. I'll try to, like, find someone who I want to play it against. So I know it sounds funny.
But you also love head games. We know you love macho head games.
Oh, I love them.
No, I'm sick of all your macho head games.
Yeah, so this guy, a good friend of mine, believe me, Rob, I wasn't sharking you, but this is what happened. He played a Pomaz deck against me before the tournament, and so I was like, oh no. So he was gonna play Pomaz, and he's like, I want to play this emo kids list just to try it out, and he beat me. And I was like, oh, cool. And so then he decided because he beat me, he should just play that in the event, even though he had like no experience with it, and he had his Maz all set that he'd been testing with. And I was like, yeah, you should definitely play that. You beat me. And then after a round, he lost with the emo kids, and so then I started claiming that I had let him beat me just so he wouldn't play the Maz, and he was all rattled and frazzled, and I think he was kind of mad about that actually.
Yeah,
So,
you're in his head forever after that.
Sorry about that, Rob. I don't know why I got so crazy. I had fun doing that. So it's just how I am. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about then how much Destiny I played this week. And Mike, I played 0 games of Destiny, not on the simulator, not in person, for 8 straight days. Last night I broke my fast. I played 1 game. By the way, I was terrible. I made like 4 misplays. I still won, but it was ugly. But yeah, so I didn't play for 8 days, and that was intentional. So if you've been following the podcast and my work, you know that I have reached a point with Spirit of Rebellion where I don't enjoy the meta as much. I don't like the action cheating as much. And I made a video, and I detailed my issues. And so what I decided was that was the end of that era, right? So the complaining is done. I took 8 days to clear the salt from the veins. And now I am ready to re-engage whatever the meta happens to be, whether I like it or not is irrelevant, and play until GenCon with what we have. And then post GenCon, I can do another reevaluation. But there will be no more evaluating, like, is there something wrong with the game, whatever. My opinions are out there. They have not changed. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying I'm not thinking about the game through that lens right now. I'm thinking it solely as the competitive player doing what it takes to win now. And for me personally, that took a break. It took a break to clear it all out, to get a fresh head, and I'm ready to go.
Well, as someone who's working with you, like, for Gen Con, I'm extremely excited to hear you come around because like what I wanted to talk to you today is about like goals and being goal oriented, and like ask you after your sabbatical, which is great by the way, like what your goal is. And it sounds like your goal is that you want to go and you want to crush Gen Con.
Yeah, I have one goal. It's to win Gen Con.
Great.
Not to make the cut at Gen Con, let's be clear. It was to win Gen Con.
Well, I wrote myself a whole email that I was going to touch on, but you were right. You're right with me. My goal is to final table Gen Con.
Okay.
And if I win against if I win, I'm ecstatic. I exceeded that goal. If I make the cut, I'm disappointed, but I'm not like devastated. And if I don't make the cut, I can be devastated. And I think, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I'm still going to ask you, is before this break you took, I feel that your goal, just because we talk a lot about Destiny and tournaments and stuff, was to win every single game you played of Destiny at all times. Would you say that was a fair assessment?
That's beyond fair. And
okay.
I would say that's still a sub goal. Like my primary goal is to win Gen Con, and losing with decks that I think are amazing to figure out their faults is very important, and I want to do that.
Right.
But my psyche hates losing. I have like an illness where I just don't like to lose, and I have to be very conscious and say like, okay, this is a period where losing is fine. Like whenever I start a new game, I have to tell myself, Tiny, you are new at this game. You are going to lose a lot. Just deal with it until you get good. And that's fine. When I started Game of Thrones 1.0, the game was 4 years in. People were amazing at it. My main test partner was John Bruno, the world champion. He thumped my butt like 42 straight times. That is not an exaggeration. But then after that, I was pretty damn good at the game.
Yeah, I mean, it takes losing to get better at winning, for sure.
Yeah.
I just think, and I know this might be hard for you to hear, but you can't win 100% of your games in a CCG. You cannot.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Well, that's where we go loop back to the fact that you have an illness. So,
yes.
I'm pumped that this is your goal. This too is my goal. I have only thought about Gen Con. I'm so glad I won an early store champs, because since then I've only thought about Gen Con. I have no interest in figuring anything else out.
I'm not sure I'm going to go to another store champ.
I was going to tomorrow, but the traffic going back down to Cape Cod is going to be so bad that I think I'll get stuck. So I think I'm going to skip it. And I don't know what else is on the agenda because, again,
Yeah.
although I still might fly down to X Wars because flights are still $165. That's like an Uber. That's a Florida Uber.
I think if you win it, we should split the prize money.
Oh yeah. Well, if I play Funkar, I will cut you in. I'll cut you a percentage.
Woo! There's the percentage .001 is because that is technically a percentage.
That's about the percentage that I play Funkar, but yeah, sure, whatever percentage you want.
That seems fair. But yeah, so I will say I have a couple sub goals. So my primary goal is to win GenCon. The sub goal is to make the cut. If I don't make the cut, I'll be really upset. That's just how I am. If there's so second day, if I don't make second day, if there is a second day, is there a graduated cut, Mike?
Yeah, there's a second.
So if I don't make the second day, don't talk to me the next day if you see me. I might just stay in my hotel and burn all my Destiny cards and play L5R or something. I don't know.
We'll just leave you some Steak Shack outside your hotel room.
Yeah, but then the goal after that is to make the cut. If I make the cut, it's fine, whatever. But that's not my primary goal. My primary goal is to win GenCon. I realize though that with a dice/card game, that can be difficult, and that's one of the reasons why I like Funkar so much. It's one of the reasons why I like Pomaz so much as a competitive deck. Those are decks where rolls are not normally as much of an issue. Funkar can control the board to the point where you're getting so many opportunities for free rolls off of FN that if you whiff, you're fine. And Pomaz just kind of doesn't care what it rolls. It's more about draws.
Yeah, I would say that that's pretty fair. Although I think, and this goes back to something that we've talked about a couple times on here, is that people are figuring out how to play against Pomaz.
Oh, yeah.
And they the deck is changing. And some people were already playing a version that used Planetary and used Frozen Wastes and became more controlling. But the redundancy that we saw at the beginning of the format is tough to establish with and this is something that you said too a lot, is that removal was going to come back, and now control decks are in some of the control decks are really strong, or there's a lot of decks like Funkar that can take a more control style. It's more mid range where it can play the control game against something like Pomaz, and I think that that's where its strength lies for sure.
Yep, and I think what's really interesting about Pomaz is there's all these people touting the Frozen Waste version. And the reason why I think that's effective is because people play it like it's the other version with Throne Room. Because if you don't have Throne Room, all you have to do is kill Maz, and then the Po deck loses. It can't win if it doesn't have Throne Room or Maz. It just dies.
Yeah, I agree. And while I do like slowing the deck down and putting the planetaries back in, and I have done that, I'm not comfortable moving to the Frozen Waste version. In fact, in that version, I sort of want 3PO back in, because 3PO is that redundancy. And as much as I've loved Maz's Goggles and its 2 resource sides, having the 3PO out first to simply auto hit, it's that third redundancy that the deck didn't need at the beginning of the, sort of when Pomaz rose to dominance, and then that it needs now. It needs again, I think.
Yep. Probably. I cut Maz's Goggles from my list. It's too limiting. If they kill Maz, it's a dead card. And otherwise, it's just there's other stuff I want to do. There's deck slots, right? If I could have 40 deck slots, Maz's Goggles would be in there in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And the deck needs money too, which I know it's sort of counterintuitive. Maz's Goggles will get you money, but it takes money first, so it's just a little bit slow in generating those resources back.
So I want to just real quick circle back to my break before we move on. I want to talk real quick about what I gained from this break. So I talked about why I did it. What I've gained, I hope, Mike, God, I hope so, is that a new perspective, right? And that I used to think Destiny was the most fun thing I did every week. I looked forward to Wednesday more than anything. I got to hang out with my buddy John, all the new friends I've made in the Destiny community, and have a great time playing this game I loved. And had gotten to the point where I loved the beginning of Wednesday nights, and then once the tournament hit, it was like, okay, here we go. What bullshit's going to beat me this week in the finals? And it it wasn't as fun anymore. And so I'm really hoping that what I will gain with my less salty perspective is having fun again. That's really what I'm hoping.
And I do think that just loops back to like the importance of having the right goals, because when you were doing that and you were like already thinking about like how you were going to lose, you're putting like all that negative energy out there. And like, I don't know how you feel about energy, but I feel like if you're negative all the time, like negativity is going to find you. So like if you have the goal of, I don't need to win this tournament, as long as if I lose, I certainly figure out, the matchup I lost to, or is there anything I could have done to fix that.
And that's where Store Champs comes in. There's like 5 more I can go to, and I'd like to for fun. But I really don't feel like, unless there's a deck I want to test, that A is not going to be a secret deck, right? Like, GenCon's coming up quick. If I come up with some deck that I think is insane, maybe I don't want to unveil it to the world. And otherwise, every other deck that's already been fiddled with, there isn't that much point for me to take a whole Saturday just to do that. I already have my win. I have a second place as well. I have a play set of Phasma, so I've got a stack of Phasma mats. I don't really need to make that stack higher.
I do think it's that's a good goal to like have if you want to test a deck. And of course you could come up with something that's a little under the radar. But there are decks that are known quantities out there that, you might not have gotten games with. And people are trying to win those store championships. Yep. So they're a great testing ground. And they're better than like just simply playing randoms on TTS, because everyone there is out to get those Phasmas from you. They don't want you to have your third.
Yeah, and the other thing is, so there's a problem with TTS, and that's twofold. The one is playing randoms is not great testing ground. It's just not. First of all, when a mistake gets made, they don't want you to tell them, hey, dude, you made a mistake. Would you mind backing up so we can have a better test? People get pissed if you do that. Just a warning. I don't do that, but people will get mad. And the reverse is also true. If you go, hey, dude, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Let me back that up. No, because that's not what this is. This is you playing a random game, not you playing a testing game. So there's that. And then when you go with your little testing group, well, now you're in the echo chamber, right? You've all thought about your decks. You have your deck that you think is better, or maybe now you're all in agreement on a deck is best, and that gets very dangerous to get into that little small group. And so it's like just playing on TTS is kind of dangerous, and so store champs are really useful from that perspective.
Yeah, and group think's definitely a scary possibility that I certainly hope we avoid. But there are pitfalls for sure in any play testing, and you just got to hope you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I had a very uninteresting podcast with Game of Thrones 1.0 with a really good friend of mine, Chris. I loved it. We had a great time talking. But what I realized was we're basically the same person. And so it'd be like all our evaluations would be the same. There was very little disagreement. The disagreement would be like in just how bad you think the card is. You're like, I think it's a D-. You're an idiot. It's an F. And you're like, okay. So groupthink can be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, and that's when you need to bring someone else in. And I think like the fact that we've been testing a lot together, and the group I work with regularly at the Hyperloops is like pretty diverse, and we're usually not only in disagreement but pretty strong-minded. So it forces a lot of testing. It forces us to put the cards on the table and see what actually happens, which I like.
You guys are all idiots. I'll just say it right here. You're all idiots. Tiny Grimes is the only one in that group who knows anything. You guys are always wrong.
Great. That's the only reason we want you around, to disagree with us. Makes us feel better.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what now, right? I talked about what I've gained. What now? What now is turning towards figuring out the meta, figuring out what we're going to do with it. I'm going to call this next segment Tiny Grimes Strikes Back at the Meta. So let's talk about some decks that we think might strike fear into this meta. I think one of them is Phasma. I think Phasma has been underlooked a bit just because Poe is so freaking annoying. You're like, I got 3 dudes, I'm set. And they're like, thermal U-wing. And you go, well, that was dumb. Phasma is unplayable. But that doesn't happen that often, right? Have you ever had someone go thermal U-wing?
No, I'm usually the one doing the thermal U-winging. But
have you done that though, all 3 in a game?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, I've only been thermaled. I haven't had the Ewing on top of the double thermal. So.
Yeah, it's ugly. I think I told a story on the podcast about how I made a guy quit the tournament and
yeah, you
out.
did.
So
you did. That was a great
I'm
story.
pretty sure that's what happened.
Okay. So, but I still think Phasma is strong, especially if people shift to that more control-oriented version of the Poe deck. Now you're able to eat one of those Poe dice. They don't have as easy way to get them off. You're going to be able to kill Maz pretty quick. Most of your damage comes from your upgrades anyway, so you're just kind of like, okay, cool. You've frozen wasted my no face die. Ooh, I'm so upset right now. How dare you? I guess I'll just kill you with my jetpack, my Imperial, whatever it's called, with Tarkin's face on it, a holdout blaster, and a Z6 control baton. I guess I'll just have to kill you with all those dice.
Yeah, if you make me. I think that's. Yeah, I think in general. Yeah, I just completely agree. I'm going into the group thing.
Yes, yes. I do have a question for you, though. I've looked at Phasma lists. None of them are running the Riot Baton, and I think that is not just wrong, but completely idiotic. Am I a fool, or am I right?
No, you're completely right. And I think I said the same thing either. I must have said it to the other guys. But, it makes no sense to have this insane redeploy weapon with 3 black sides, no blue sides, not in your Phasma deck. Yeah. I think Phasma has a lot of potential. It's one of those decks that, I don't want to rehash everything you just said, but it has this inherent power with the Double Guardian that is going to be so strong against the majority of decks. And if you can do anything to limit that, like Fear of the Thermal, it's just going to be huge. She did the same thing at the end of the Awakening season. She just came out of nowhere, was really, really strong, and I could totally see that happening again. So she's certainly one that I'm on the lookout for.
Yeah, she's on my radar for sure. Back to the Riot Baton one more time. One of the big weaknesses that I've noticed with the Phasma decks I'm seeing is that they just get wrecked by Unkar decks because they're all 2-drop weapons, and that to me is the most shocking part and why Riot Baton is so amazing. It's like, okay, that person's running Imperial Inspection. I have a way around that with my Riot Baton, and then when the guy dies, I still get it back. So to me, Riot Baton is like an auto include that is stunning that it's missing from decks. It's not just an oversight. It's like this stunning. How could you possibly conceive of running this deck without it? That's where my head is with it.
It's this format's only 1/4 strike in your Vader World's Championship list,
yes,
right? Yeah. And I agree. You cannot go to a real tournament and be susceptible to just getting crushed by Imperial Inspection.
Yep, I think you could a month ago, but I think those days are over.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. People weren't doing it a month ago, but going forward, you can't just cave to that card. It's too strong.
Yep. So the other deck that is on my Tiny Strikes Back list is the deck I've been playing. I love it. I think it's the most fun deck in the format for myself, and that's the Unkar deck, which is Unkar, Nines, Trooper. And what I love about it is how flexible it is. Sometimes you don't roll damage, but you've got the salvage stand out in Imperial Inspection, so you're like, oops, I rolled the Disrupt with the Gaffy Stick side. Okay, I guess I'll just bounce that 2-drop that you had out there instead of doing damage with FN's ability. Or, oops, I rolled the +3 with the IQA. Geez, I'm rolling bad. I guess I'll just use Unkar to eat that and pull that card from your hand. Oh, it was the Falcon you were about to throw at me. Womp womp. Here's 5 resources. Now I'll play a Riot Baton. There's just so many things and adjustments you can do with the deck. What I love about it is it's what I said. It doesn't rely so much on rolls. In the end, it still does because it's not an alternate win condition deck. You still have to roll damage to kill people, but when you miss, there's more stuff to do rather than just hope you get a reroll.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, I've played the deck a bunch since you've been touting it, and I want to get familiar with it and see how I liked it. One of the things that drives me crazy about the deck is when you don't have things to do with all those resources, when there's no way to replenish your hand and there's no way to, you're sitting there on 10 resources and be like, oh my God, please just let me draw 2 weapons. Those times can be frustrating, but I agree. The inherent power of the deck is strong. And then your erstwhile podcast host, El Raytheon, just won another store championship with the deck, and he put prize possession
I know.
in the deck. And he said, and while it is good to throw, like, because the die has to be in the pool when you play prize possession, it's great to throw on FN, get rid of that die. Maybe you leave it on there for a turn. They activate that character. Then you're able to rewrite the weapon.
Yeah.
Rewrite it with a weapon and get his roll. Well, you still die mitigated for 2 turns.
Yep.
Which it was an expensive die mitigation, but you're getting the money back when you overwrite it. And then if you are flush and you do have like 10 extra resources, you can just prize possession someone else.
I'm gonna try that myself. I hadn't. So it's really interesting because to me the Unkar deck has 3 god-awful cards in it. It has 2 IQAs and a Gaffy stick. And with Inspection on the table and with Unkar on the table, they're not that bad. They're not good, but you're never like, yeah, baller draw, I got the Gaffy stick, it's going down now. But being able to replace them with prize possessions has me intrigued. I'm not sure I'll stick with that, but I'll definitely try it because of what all the things you just said about how it does function. You still just get to overwrite it whenever you want. You have a lot of control with 9s about when you're going to overwrite things. But I do have a question for you. You're getting 10 resources? We play this deck extremely different. I've never had more than about 4 at a time. What is going on with you? How are you getting 10?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting the soul reads with the Unkar ability, but also I feel like my online Unkars always roll 1 resource plus 2 resources. So I'm just always cash. I mean, hey, I'll take it. I got to do the saline test on my online dice.
I guess.
I don't know. I just know it's happened a couple times that I've had more resources than I could spend the money at the time.
I've never had that problem.
But I mean, it could be variance, but you've played a lot more games with it than me.
Yeah, I've played probably
I will say
50 games. I've never had that situation. I think one of the reasons is because I don't trigger Unkar that much.
Yeah, and I know you told me that, and I tried to honor that. It's just like sometimes the situation seemed good, or again, like sometimes I'm just cashing in my own resources, but I'm not able to just get, like, maybe I'm having bad weapon draws, or just maybe. There's a lot of supports and events in there. But I will say one game, I can't remember what deck I was playing against. I wish I could, because I think it was maybe Django FN, and he killed my FN like very early in turn 2, and I don't think I got any redeploys. Ooh. And I was like, "You got this one, man." Yeah. And he's like, "Don't do it." He's like, "I've seen that deck come back crazy."
Yeah.
And I stuck with it, and I even felt like I was just going through the motions, and then things started to happen.
Yep.
Where I started to get 10 resources, and I'm like, "All right, I'll just put 3 weapons on Unkar." And didn't I come back and win that game? And I sort of had to hang my head in shame for not having hope in myself. Like, it felt like, my dad teaching me a lesson back in life, like never give up. And I'd be like, "Sorry, I gave up, Dad." But I came back and won. And in general, the thing that scares me about the deck is, the no damage sides on Unkar.
Yeah, that doesn't worry me at all, because there is so much redeploy. Generally, something is going over to him after 9s dies, and then even if it doesn't, like you said, you get enough money where you can just put weapons on Unkar. Hopefully those then have redeploy if you didn't find them for FN. And now if you have Unkar with 2 riot batons, they still have to kill him because he's 4 dice. And then those just go over to the trooper. And if they don't kill the trooper, well, then you're still gaining more resources, doing amazing things. I feel like FN dying early is not always the death sentence it is in a lot of other decks.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I just had, and like we've talked about, it was like a learning moment. I had to see it to believe it there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested to try it with the prize possessions. You say you're going to cut IQAs. I feel like I'm the only person in the world who thinks IQA is sweet.
So
triggers salvage stand, triggers inspection, has the +3. Okay, go ahead.
This is my problem. I don't want to say it the way I was going to say it. I'm just going to say this. A lot of people kill Unkar first because they're worried about him. If they kill Unkar first, IQA is an awful card in your deck. Because now you can't Unkar it at all. It only has the 1 in 6 side that chance you're going to run the disrupt. It never rolls the disrupt when you need the disrupt. It just doesn't. Now you can't really rely on inspection once Unkar dies. So it's just it's like this hard thing of I don't know. IQA is that weapon that I roll it the one time and then I immediately overwrite it. And if I don't get value out of it from something, then I often get nothing from it.
Yeah, that's a bummer because that blue side is so attractive to me with the Stormtrooper. And then, just the
Yeah.
two unblockable also good. And yeah, I mean, you can't expect to roll the disrupt by any means, but it can
Mm-hmm.
be rolled as well as resource. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks good to me, but like you've got the more games, so I'll take your word for
No,
it.
I will say this: it's fine. Like it's fine. And I kind of like the Gaffy stick for the same reason. It has a disrupt. It has a redeploy. That redeploy has owned people, right? So I'll be like, okay, I'll have my Vibro Knucklers out, or no, let's say I have the IQA on nines. I Vibro Knucklers into Tusken Gaffy stick, knowing he's about to die, right? So I turned a Knucklers into a Gaffy stick, which goes over to say Unkar. I immediately overwrite it with a better weapon for only one, and now Unkar went from 0 to hero just because I happen to have a Gaffy stick in my hand. So
Yeah, Gaffy stick's like your cargo hold. You just moved it over.
Exactly. So it's like those are the three cards that have lower impact, but I still think they have value. And like you said, you have to kind of work for the value, which is weird with FN, right? FN usually doesn't have to work for anything. He's just like, I'm
just
broken.
chilling.
Watch me go. And these cards, he's like, okay. I'm busted, but you have to do a little work here. And you're like, work? I don't work when I play FN decks. I just roll and win.
Yeah, he's like a good quarterback. He makes the bad cards better, right? He just makes bad cards playable.
Yep. So I definitely see your point, and that's why I'm hesitant to try the prize possession. I'm going to try it. I trust El Rathian. He's a good player. His idea makes sense, but prize possession is pretty limited. It has to be a character die. It has to be in the pool. It costs a boatload. You're going to have to overwrite a good weapon to do it. So I'm a little bit hesitant to try it, but I do want to try it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's not for every matchup. I think in the matchups, I think it's great in like Vader Raider. I think there's going to be matchups where it's amazing. Yeah, and Palp. It's going to be amazing in some matchups, and it's going to be a discard in others, just like a lot of the cards. So.
Yep. We were talking about it, and I said my issue with prize possession, because I was going to put it in before, just to use it a little differently, just to lock down a die. And my reasoning was, the deck already beats Palpatine. It has removal and 3 characters. It rarely loses to Palpatine. Kind of the same thing with Vader. It's hard for Vader to push out enough damage before this deck puts out its damage to win. So if it's favorably matched up against the matchups where prize possession would be good, then it's not worth playing. And then he explained what you already said, where he doesn't use it just to lock down a die permanently, but just as another removal card. And from that perspective, it makes more sense. Yeah,
I like it a lot to just sort of like mess with your opponent and just take their die off the table for a turn or two. I mean, that's how long your opponent's good character should be on the table anyway. So it's usually for the life of their character.
All right. Well, those are 2 decks that I'm interested. Tiny Grimes strikes back at the meta. We'll see how they work out. I want to talk, though, about something really important, and that's X-Wars, man. July 8th and 9th, right around the corner. Mike might be there. We got a 3K event. We've got a store champ, alt art. It's all happening, man. It's going to be our first major cash event. Let's make predictions, not about what's going to win, but just how it's going to go. Do you think this is going to be a successful event that is going to be the precursor to more successful cash events? What do you think? What's going to happen here?
I hope so. I guess the only thing I'm a little worried about is that, and it's the internet, so there's a million different places you can talk about the game, but I haven't heard a lot of buzz outside of like you or me talking about X-Wars. I know that there's a pretty big South Florida group, and that Orlando's got a decent gaming area. So I just hope that, like, what's a number? What do you think, like, the number of people that participate in the 3K has to be for it to be successful? Is it 100? Is it more than that?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't even know. What's the entry fee on? Is it like 25?
I want to say it's 25, but it could be cheaper.
Yeah, it'd be really bad if we cite a price and it's wrong. So let me see. I got it.
No, I have.
Here. So it's the 3K main event is $40, and the other one is $25. So, yeah, I mean, I would think if they get 100 people, that should be fine. That's 4,000 in entry fees, and then they'll have to pay other stuff for the alt arts and stuff, so they break even. Yeah, I don't know what the magic number is for them to consider it a successful event. I think on the one hand, it's lower. It's like 75. Okay, let me rephrase that entirely. I think what makes it a successful event is how many out-of-towners do they draw because it's a 3K prize pool. I think the in-town people is irrelevant. If there's 300 in-town people, it's still not successful unless it can draw a certain amount of people from elsewhere to make you think like, okay, cash prizes are a real thing we can do around the country.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I also think that even if this doesn't work, they are running all these events at GenCon 1 month later, and that'll be pretty telling. I think that all those have filled up, but they kept them pretty small. Yeah. I'm really, really tempted to go to X Wars. It's just getting on a flight at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and flying back at 9 a.m. on Sunday is going to be a grueling weekend.
Yeah. I mean, if I tried to do that, it'd be rough because it's like a 5-hour flight each way. I
you have it rough. I can do a 3-hour flight for cheap, and I'm going to be doing it, while my family is sleeping, and then just take 1 day away. So
yeah, I think you should do it, man. I think you should, if nothing else, go support the event. Go show them that it's an important thing. Just do it, man. What's the problem?
Yeah. You say that to my wife and get back to me.
Oh, no. I'm not stupid. Do I look stupid? All right. Let's talk about one other thing about the event, and that's the alt arts. There's some pretty cool alt arts. I'm going to flip up the one that I want to talk about because I have it prepped, and that's the Darth Vader one. When he showed this, I immediately messaged him, and I was like, hey, man, I'm sponsoring the event. What do I got to do to get my hands on one of these here Darth Vader alt arts? So hopefully I'll get one. I mean, they're so popular, I may not. Like, if X-Force has enough people and it sells, they're all gone, then I won't get one, and I'll actually be happy about that, right? That means the event was so successful that I didn't get one. But it's really cool looking, and I think it's really cool when people make these alt arts for events, and the more that are out there, the better. Is there one, Mike, that really jumps out at you as being extra amazing?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now, and I think that I think all the blue ones are just head and shoulders above the rest. The Palpatine is great. The Obi-Wan is really, really great. It's him on the Death Star right before he's about to get murdered. But I really like the Qui-Gon one, and I'm a fan of Qui-Gon, and it's sort of like bioluminescent. Like, is he the spirit version of himself? Well, he's holding a lightsaber. But I thought that one looked cool. I thought it was sweet.
Yeah, I agree. I like the blue ones better than the yellow ones, personally. The red ones are pretty cool as well.
Yeah, so, the red ones are good.
Just quickly showing them, but I agree. Palpatine is awesome. Obi-Wan is awesome. So hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on them, and hopefully all of you going to X-Wars will really like them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's make some predictions then. This is the first, like, I don't know, is this the first big event of the season or not? Like, do store champs count? I don't know. Like, people are taking store champs pretty seriously, but they don't feel that big to me. This feels like the first. Like, I could see people hiding decks for this event to try to win $3,000.
Yeah, technically, store champs are just supposed to be casual events. Of course, they haven't been treated like that, like you said. Yeah. But I would say with GenCon 6 weeks away and Nova 2 months away, that X Wars will be the kickoff to quote unquote the convention season. We're hitting them right in a row. There have been a couple. They had whatever ones where we talked about where they gave out those full art Luke and Anakin cards.
Yeah, the Team Covenant event. I don't count that one because you had to pay like $150 to enter or something.
Well, you got a box, which is like. You get to go to a box. It's like a box event, sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but then there was the Seattle one. Right, but then the Seattle one happened right after that, and they got the same thing. And then, like, those got a little buzz, but I'm hoping that X-Force has a little bit more sustained buzz going into the convention season.
Yeah.
And, the TTS tournament, which was, was Spirit Rebellion legal, that's wrapping up this week. Yeah. So we should get those games put online. So I think that'll help inform
I don't count those everything. At all, though, Mike. It was like, here's Spirit of Rebellion, You have 4 days to process an entire set. All right, make a competitive deck. And
Was it just 4 days though? Because they were on TTS forever.
Forever. I don't know.
You cannot count it, but people are going to look at that.
Yeah,
people are going to look at it.
People will look at it. That's true. But let's make some predictions. What do we think is going to be in the final 4 of X Wars?
Do you think Emo Kids is consistent enough to get there?
I do not think it'll be in the final 4. I also don't think it'll have a high enough representation. I think to make the final 4, you have to both be good and have high representation.
Okay, well, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to say there's definitely going to be a Pomaz in the top 4.
I totally agree. I got 1 Pomaz in the final 4.
I would say there's going to be... Man, I really don't want to give Vader Raider any cred at all. So I'm going to say Vader Raider will not be in the final 4.
I disagree. I think he'll be there. I think he's just too good in this environment of not having to care what you roll with 4-strike and bait and switch. And then you load up the Tusken, and then Vader dies, and he does dumb things and just rolls his Mind Probe and kills you. I think a Vader Raider will be there for sure.
Well, I wanted to make a bold call, so I'm saying no mas.
Okay.
So what? I guess this, like, if I had to pick 2, so Pomaz is one. I actually do think Emo Kids is going to sneak one in.
Okay. I think that's fair.
But I think we'll see one FN deck.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
And then I think we'll see like one weird like Dooku deck.
Yeah,
or maybe the Phasma deck shows up. Maybe the Phasma deck shows up.
I think it'll either be, and this is going to be a large grouping, it's either going to be a mill deck. I could actually see either hero or villain making it. I could see a Phasma deck. I could see a Baze deck getting crazy lucky and hitting all ranged. What I don't think we'll see is a Palpatine deck. I just don't think Palpatine is strong enough to deal with all the removal we're seeing to win that many games to make the cut.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't even considering Palpatine. It wasn't even, like, swimming in my mind grapes.
I mean, it still wins. It still wins Store Champs. But, like, whenever it wins a Store Champ, I know this doesn't sound horrible, but I immediately go, that's a weak meta. Like, that's a terrible thing to say, and it might not be at all true, but that's where my brain goes.
Well, we want a healthy meta where you can play any deck at any time, but I just am not a fan of Palpatine. I haven't been, and I'm still not. I also kind of like. I'm with you on the mill deck. Have you seen this One Punch Vader deck?
Mm-hmm, that Smurley has, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if like you were gonna ask me about like a deck that I think is kind of up and coming.
Yeah,
so
we're getting there next, Mike. Thanks for ruining the segment.
We're like running out of time, so I wasn't sure. Well, let's segue into One Punch Vader. I don't know, like, do you need to do it with Unkar? I haven't, like, really dug in too deep, but I really liked the Vader Jabba version, and I think you could do the same thing, just not put the fast hands on Jabba, just put the fast hands on.
That's what I've been running this whole time, is the One Punch Vader with Jabba. I think the reason why he likes running it with Unkar is simply that you get more resources to be able to play the blackmails and be able to do all these cool things. And I think that's reasonable. It also means that, even just with Unkar and Vader, theoretically, that's 2 cards a turn no matter what you roll. You don't have to actually roll the discard sides. Yep,
I like that. And the My Kind of Scum is interesting, but I don't know that I wouldn't play any... Like, I don't think I'd play 0 and Rage when you're trying to actively put out a 3-cost equipment.
I would. Yeah, I actually like that part.
That you like 0 and Rage?
Yeah, I feel like Unkar makes money. Like that's his job. If you're playing Unkar, you're doing it so you don't have to play the makes money cards.
Man, I just want a turn 1.
You still gonna get a turn 1. What are you talking about? You roll Unkar, you take his 2 dice, you gain $1, and then you play blackmail. What's your problem, man?
I feel like whenever I actually play Unkar, like he rolls a 1 and a 1, and I'm like so sad.
Yeah. That can happen. I'm just gonna have to re-roll them and get the blank. Like I got the last tournament. This was the catalyst for my break. It was like roll Unkar, double blanks. I really needed $1, so I re-rolled my Unkar, a double blanks. I was like, all right, I don't know what to do anymore. Like,
I know what to do with those dice. Throw them in the trash.
I rolled out the trooper first, of course. That was a blank. and then I rerolled them all. They were all blanks, and I'm just looking at the dude, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do here, man?
Just yell Yahtzee. That's all there is.
And then he, of course, is like, I'll put a weapon on 9s and get 3, and then I'll put another one and I'll get 2. I'm like, okay, hold on, let me roll my blank first. Blanks again. Okay, go ahead.
You're falling back into your salty.
No, I didn't do
losing rage. Don't do it.
It was a learning experience, Mike. What I learned is play decks that I don't care about.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this deck is sweet. And I've been playing one with Jabba. I like the name, and I like a bunch about it. Yeah. I'm not ready to give up on it. It's definitely in the gauntlet. Some version of Vader Mill is in the gauntlet going into GenCon.
Totally agree. I think Vader Mill is really strong. My question is, with Vader Mill, there's a couple choices I'm trying to decide between. Do I play Ascension Gun just so I can trigger the command center? It's not that good. Otherwise, like, you don't care about the damage. You're just playing it for that special. And then if you're playing that, do you go all the way and throw in Loose Ends, because Loose Ends is just insanely good if you have the range side? So those are sort of the choices I'm still wrestling with.
Yeah, I think it's tough to play the Loose Ends when you only have 2 range sides in the whole deck.
Agree. I was playing a couple of the weapons for that.
But honestly, the best thing we can do is just try it out.
Yeah.
Because Loose Ends is so good that it's worth a shot. I'll say that. It's definitely worth a shot.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's transition then to this last segment that we were going to do, which is what are 3 decks that you're looking to try a bit more? And so it sounds like we both had Villain Mill. That's definitely on my list of what I want to do.
Yeah, I would say, especially seeing this Plutt version, it moves to the top of my list that I'm excited to try.
Yeah, and we'll give Smurley all the credit there. Good job, Smurley. He's on the Discord.
Good job, Smurls.
He's a Patreon supporter, so extra thank you, Smurley. You're the best. I already talked about Phasma No Face Trooper. That's on my list. What's another deck on your list?
Another deck I've gotten like 1 or 2 games with, but it's because someone locally plays it, that I was a little intrigued by, and it is also Mill, and it is Jin Padme. And so one of the things, we've talked about Ammo Belt a couple times privately, that like I haven't seen it actually do anything yet. Yeah. And Jin Padme isn't a list I've seen a lot of people use. It's great. It's like another great disarm deck. So I love decks that are like, all right, I have this really strong 2-die character and this really weak 1-die character. So you're going to go after that strong character. Let me put Con Artist and, the second chance ammo bell on that weaker character who's like slowly like chipping away at you while you're not ready for it. So I like that aspect of it. And I like Rebel. I like Rebel's ability to get both second chance back and, ammo belt back for cheaper. And if you can do it whilst Jin is still alive, you get a free ammo belt just by showing a discard side. So it's one that I really like. I think it's like one of those decks, so you need to hit Con Artist early, and you need to continually, like every time you roll a resource, you have to take it. I can see that. Because you just need the money so badly.
Really important point. You said that the card's name is Rebel, and I agree. I mean, we saw the preview where she said, "I'm a rebel, I rebel." But most people in my meta call it Rebel. Is it Rebel or Rebel?
I mean, it never entered my thought that it would be. I look at events as like actions, right?
Exactly. They're verbs,
they're like
right?
They're verbs, right?
Yeah.
Rebel. I rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She rebels.
Okay.
She's rebelling.
We are on the same page, man. We are on the same page. So good.
Sweet.
All right, my last deck that I want to try more, and I say this every week. I bring a version of this deck, and I always want to try it, and I always do, and I'm always disappointed. And that's Qui-Gon Rey. I'm just going to say it here. The guys in the Minnesota meta have told me they think this is the best deck in the game.
Still?
And I remind them that the Brits said this in the last meta, and they ended up looking stupid, and that I think they might be stupid as well. and they're adamant that I'm wrong. So I'm curious to hear. What do you think? Am I wrong? Am I right? Have we just not tested enough? Where are we with this deck?
I mean, it's not the best deck in the meta for sure.
I
I've played a bunch of it, and we like, I know Joe from the Hyperloops, he's tested a bunch of it too. We've tried it a bunch of different ways, solid, more combo oriented with the direct damage package, and it's good. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's good. It's what I would take to like if I was just going to a casual game night. It's what I would play. It's the other deck I have built right now, other than my two competitive decks.
That's where I'm with it. It's a good deck. It's a good deck. To me, it's too fair with all the crazy stuff you can do, which seems absurd when Ray is in a deck to be like, it's too fair. It only has Ray. But it just doesn't do. I never fear the deck. When someone plays Qui-Gon Ray, I'm always like, whoo, okay. Wow, this is going to be an easy one. And occasionally still wins, but I definitely don't have that mindset of like, oh god, they're playing Qui-Gon Ray.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those decks that can just roll out both its guys and show 10 damage.
Yeah.
It does that maybe better than any other, like, just straight, I'm resolving my dice for the damage sides deck. It just has a lot of damage sides. And, a lot of them are blue, but it can take advantage of them. Guard's real good. Makashi Training's real good. There's a lot of good things the deck does. It's a good Vibro Knife deck. It's a great Riposte deck. So it does a lot of good things. It's very, very solid. But I would not take it to like a big event.
Yeah. I'd say the upside on it is so high that I think there's one game with that deck that may have caused my friend John to quit or at least heavily consider it. And it's funny because he cites this game. He cites a Ray game as the reason why he hates the game right now. And I played the Qui-Gon Ray deck to try it out, and I got to go like turn 1, maybe it was turn 2 when it all came together, but I had like an Obi-Wan with Makashi on him, and then a Ray with a 4-speed, and I was able to go Vibro Knife, overwrite with Vibro Knife, hit the 4-speed, and I did. He had no actions, and I did like 11 damage and killed like a Poe or something just immediately with him having no chance to do anything. And it was a really frustrating moment. It was one of those things where I was like, all right, I'll do Ray and do dumb things, and I did my dumb things, and then killed this guy, and he was just like, this game is stupid, and it's gone off the rails, and I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and I think probably when you look at a deck that's supposed to be sort of this like quiet, not that daunting of a deck to play against, and it does do those broken things. It can be tilting for sure.
Yeah, like when you sit down against this deck and then that happens, you're like, I thought this was my easy game today. What the hell is going on with this meta?
Yep.
All right, what's your last deck before we head out of here, Mike?
Well, I'm not a believer, but I feel like I want to try. But these 4-character decks that keep popping up, the 2-tie pilot, 2 first order troopers, or the version that mixes in a Balatik.
Yeah.
Any of these, they were some that I was excited for when the cards first got spoiled, and then Thermal and U-Wing sort of sent those guys packing.
Yeah.
But like that Endless Swag deck has won 2 store championships, so I feel like I have to actually give it a shot. So I'm excited to add that to the gauntlet, especially if Poe Maz is sort of like continues to take up less and less of the space in the meta. One of the decks that's going to make room is this 4-character monstrosity.
Yeah, it's funny how Poe Maz has really done us a service there and kept that deck out. We all want Poe Maz to go away, and it's only going to be replaced by a different monster of a different breed. It reminds me a lot of the End of Awakenings, where some fools put out this 3-part series about how a 4-character deck was going to win Worlds. So I look forward to the clickbaity article for a winning GenCon.
Don't sleep on 4 characters, man. 35 card deck. It's the only one you can do. So.
Oh man, so much fun I have on this show. Just kidding, of course. That was the Hyperloops who did that. They are not fools. We had a little inside.
Yeah,
fun.
No, yeah, we had a little back and forth, and you won that one because somehow Boundless Ambitions won Worlds. So I'll give credit where credit is sort of due. This is like
if you make 1,000 predictions, man, one is going to come true.
One's going to hit. Yeah, well, I don't know that this 4-character deck is as strong as the 4-character Rainbow. I feel like we'll have more to say at a later date, so I'm going to just shelve that discussion. I'm going to table it, as they say in the city council.
Sounds good. I too am looking forward to trying it more. But we're going to have to close up today. We are out of time today. So thanks so much to Mike for coming on the Smugglers Den. Short notice, no less. I was like, hey, Mike, can you do the Smugglers Den in like 12 minutes?
I was like, yeah, I can drive home.
So thanks for that. Appreciate it. And Mike, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on TTS in my testing room that I have open a lot of the time now that summer vacation has hit and I don't have a real job. And at thehyperloops.com and youtube.com/thehyperloops. Going to be putting out more videos for the summer and just continually writing in anticipation of, trying to achieve my goal of making the final table at GenCon.
Yeah, we'll see each other there.
Right.
You can find me all over as Tiny Grimes. I have taken some time off. I only did the one video last week about my issues with the meta. I even turned it into the podcast for last week because I wasn't going to... I was trying not to even talk about Destiny, which, by the way, is impossible for me. I was still going into channels, dropping gauntlets and stuff. I'm in a better place this week. So expect more content. Expect the tier list on Patreon, Tiny Grimes, to get updated this week. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to really taking a closer look at it. Expect Palp to drop. I don't care what people say anymore about Palp. I don't care if he wins every event. Dude is not tier 1. Sorry, we're going with my data, not with the world's data. Check me out on YouTube, Tiny Grimes, and Tiny Grimes Games on Twitter. We'll see you next time on the Smugglers Den.